Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. It's Cynicalex, and today we're going to talk about uniforms. More specifically, a top 10 must skip uniforms. Not must buy, but the ones that you might think about buying and might actually think are worth buying, but are actually worth skipping for one reason or another. Now, in general, I don't like making a lot of negative videos, so I try to keep these ones, few and far between. And when it comes to uniforms, basically, there is no such thing as a bad uniform. Technically, I understand that not everyone has access. Well, most players don't have access to unlimited crystals, but you can always make an argument for a uniform being good. Whether it's good because it relates to a specific movie or a specific, scene or a movie that you really loved, or it's a classic look for a character based on a comic run that you really enjoyed growing up or whatever. Like, there's so many ways that it can speak to you personally, and then just less subjectively but more objectively, it can just be a better uniform for the character and it can be an upgrade. But then you always have people that consider the upgrades not good enough, right? Some people are just really looking for that tippy top value of a character, and then some people are constantly at the forefront of the meta as characters change and as new uniforms come in and replace old uniforms or replace characters or whatever. And some people like to just settle on a meta and then just stay there, and maybe the meta gets overpassed for some content, but it's still the second or third best meta, and so they're fine with that. So there's lots of reasons why you can basically argue that no uniform is really truly terrible, except like maybe the low-key cel-shaded uniform. But besides that, every uniform has some purpose and has some value. But I'm going to do my best here to give you guys 10 uniforms, especially in the last year and a half. I'm really trying to pick on uniforms that have been released recently that have just generally missed the mark on characters that are, marquee, like very iconic Marvel characters, or they're uniforms that are like really expensive in one way or another, and they just don't really, they didn't really have a lasting impression when they were released, or they've been released recently and they haven't really had much impact as is. So again, you're free to disagree with me. This is just my list. But starting us off at number 10 is the brand new Deadpool 30th anniversary uniform. And it pains me to put this uniform on the list, but I'm putting it here trying to make a point to the devs, maybe in case one of them sees this, maybe in case one of them wants to go in and to tap on some of the keyboards, some of the numbers here, and tweak this a little bit. I feel like this uniform has fallen flat everywhere that it actually matters performance-wise. Look-wise, swag-wise, this dude's dripping in swag 100%, and he's got two looks, right? He's got the black one, and we're gonna get the white one. And the white one's actually really cool because it's through the uniform collection. So I like that they're experimenting with these new ways of getting uniforms, not just fork over a bunch of crystals. I mean, technically you have to fork over a bunch of crystals to get this one, but you kind of know what I mean. Like, maybe in the future they'll release a new giant boss raid, and that giant boss raid will give you a uniform once you beat it enough times or whatever, or once you beat it with specific characters. So I like that aspect of it, and I think it's cool that they didn't try to power creep the white uniform, since it's technically so much more expensive than the black one. So, they did a lot of things right in a sense, but then in another sense they didn't, because this uniform just doesn't do very much better than Holiday Lady Deadpool did, and this uniform has been out for a while, and a lot of people like Lady Deadpool, but a lot of people like the OG Deadpool. So I think some people are rightfully disappointed that we're back to the OG uniform, and you basically had no reason to buy it. So that's sort of why this uniform makes the list. It's probably the softest one on this list, like the one that people would probably disagree with the most, but I just felt it was necessary and also extremely topical given that this uniform was released like 2 weeks ago. Next up on the list, this one has a little bit more explanation behind it. It's the all new, all different Scarlet Witch, but this actually basically extends to any other Scarlet Witch uniform that you don't, well, except for this one obviously, that you don't already have. So if you don't already have this uniform or this uniform or this uniform, like let's say you just unlocked Scarlet Witch so that you could play Null, don't buy any of her uniforms for a couple of reasons. One, none of the uniforms are going to make her super meta. Two, we still don't know, it's unlikely, but we still don't know for sure if we're going to be getting a WandaVision update, but we know that Marvel Future Fight and Marvel tells Netmarble, make MCU updates, make MCU new updates in the game, right, to coincide with movies. Whatever, in a year or a year and a half, we know Multiverse of Madness, the new Doctor Strange movie's coming out. Love Doctor Strange. And we know that Scarlet Witch is going to be in that. So, 90% chance, 95% chance Scarlet Witch is going to get a uniform. That's still a pretty far away, it's still pretty far away in terms of the time, a year and a half, but it's unlikely she gets another uniform in that time span because She's been out since 2017. She got this one in 2018 for Infinity War. And then in 2019, at the end of the year, she got this one. And then in 2020, she got this one in April. So in the span of a pretty short amount of time, like 2 years basically, she got 3 uniforms, which is very quick. So I think they're now going to sort of shift away from Scarlet Witch and move away from her, unless she gets something for WandaVision. It'll probably be nothing until Multiverse of Madness, and that's why she comes on the list, because there really isn't much that these uniforms do, and they definitely do not make her meta in a way that I think is worth not only the cost in crystals, but also the cost to rank up, like uniform XP chips, black antimatter, etc. The next one, number 8, and this is something I'm going to be doing for the remainder of the list, is I'm going to group uniforms together, because there's actually quite a few uniforms that I want you to avoid if you can, and that'll save you crystals. So this one I'm grouping as the sort of Phoenix Force female uniforms. Unfortunately, the male uniforms for the Phoenix Force, they hit it on the head. Namor's amazing, Colossus is amazing, and Cyclops is pretty good. Unfortunately for the females, they struck out big time. Both Magic and Emma Frost are just not good. Again, they're better than they were before, but it's very marginal for Emma Frost. And then for Magic, it's better, it's more substantial, but still doesn't make her anything more than a Shadowland character. And for someone who's also expensive in the sense that she is harder to get bios for, like it's Danger Room or a bio subscription. So it's slim pickings, right? You know, for that expense, for that cost, you're expecting a better character, and she just does not live up to being the Master of Limbo. She's way stronger in the comics. So is Emma Frost, but Magic is way stronger in the comics than they've given her credit for thus far in Marvel Future Fight. So hopefully with the next uniform, they'll do her right. Fire Thunder, of course, we'll be hoping for that. But yeah, in the meantime, I would say skip these uniforms. If you need a Phoenix Force character, especially for Shadowland Stage 34, this guy right here will not cost you nearly as much as either one of those uniforms, and he's amazing. I honestly think he's underrated. He's the only mind damage leadership in the game, one of the only mind damage leaderships in the game. He's awesome. Really, really strong character, fun to play, really cool graphics, like really cool animations. And anyways, I'm not talking about him. This is a uniform list, Kid Omega. Maybe you'll appear on the uniforms we want to see list later on. Haha. Coming in at number, I think this would be 7, we have an Endgame inductee, Ronin. Very, very cool uniform. A lot of you probably very tempted to purchase this one, but he just wasn't. He didn't really smash the meta too much when he came out. It was an amazing rework for Hawkeye, who had gotten 3 terrible uniforms, including this abomination, besides the aesthetics. But yeah, this uniform just has not kept up with the meta. No all defense down, no accumulation, no meta skills. Even if he were to get a tier 3 or an awakening now, this uniform would hold him back so much that he wouldn't be good. So not as bad as Elsa and Silk and those, but not that much better. So yeah, unfortunately, if you're getting this for anything other than the looks, don't expect to be blown away. But I mean, looks wise, it is gorgeous. I gotta give him that. Looks wise, it's one of the best uniforms in the game, highly detailed. But yeah, it just doesn't live up to today's expectations, damage and functionality wise. I really wish they would maybe just give it a pass over and bump up his effects and stuff, because if they could keep this exactly the same, and I would play this with a tier 3. You know, if they just bumped up his effects and stuff, I would definitely play this. But as it stands now, it's mostly just for the looks and nothing else. Coming in at number 6, I believe, or yeah, 6. I'm not good at math, man. You know what the number is. Sabretooth. And again, another uniform that when it came out, it was quite good, and that was at the end of 2019, so it hasn't really been that long, but we've just moved so far away and so quickly away from all defense down that Sabretooth's value has just disintegrated in front of him. He had a very, very short burn. He was really good, especially with Animalistic Rush and how they created a charge-up skill. He was really good. I made videos about him, like one of the easiest characters in the game to play. 3, hold that down, and then as soon as he's done the slash and he goes like this, just do 5. 3, 5, 3, 5. Super easy rotation, super cool character, combat villain. He had, all the trappings of a dope character, but given the cost, crystal character, then you gotta pony up more crystals for the uniform, and then good luck getting his bios, which are more crystals, so you basically have to pop a mega mythic uniform ticket. No way. So yeah, he just basically hasn't kept up with the meta at all, and therefore costs way too much for the return. Now we get into the top 5. Things are going to get a little bit contentious here. Number 5 for me is Captain Marvel Endgame. That's right. Still meta for Universal Female ABX, Universal Hero Female ABX, which is actually this week's ABX day. But if you're not one of the like 2,000 to 3,000 players that actually care about ABX on a serious competitive level, there's really nothing else you need her uniform for. Yes, she can play against Null with a very stacked account and with a very specific build, but besides that, not meta for World Boss, not meta for Squad Battle, nothing. For the story mode fragments, I guess. Yeah, she's fallen off pretty hard, I gotta say. She's been absolutely annihilated from PvP. So many characters lately have gotten iframe ignore, which was her only real defense, was that she could hide behind Photon combo. But Black Widow, Hulk, Silver Surfer Black in the tier 3, and then more recently, of course, Sentry, Null. Like, there's just way too many fat cats now that can just 1-tap her, 2-tap her for her to make any impact whatsoever in PvP. I mean, I'm sure you can still make it work with her if you try your best and you pick out specific teams, but if you were to just do a random selection of the top 10 teams and then put your Captain Marvel against them, you might only, win half the time. And in timeline battle, you want to auto and win 90% of the time. So she just can't really meet that that threshold anymore. Coming in at number 4 is another group of characters that I'm going to collectively tell you to avoid their uniforms. This is the Black Order minus Ebony Maw. So I'm talking Proxima Midnight, I'm talking Cull Obsidian, and I'm talking Corvus Glaive, because sadly Supergiant did not get anything. Now the reason why, I want to make this clear, the reason why I am saying yes to Ebony Maw is because he has a very real value with his uniform. Not only is his leadership good, but his passive will give universals damage reduction and damage increase against universals. And this is one of the few uniform bonuses that not only applies to all allies, but works in a lot of PvE and PvP content. Some of the best, if not the entire list of the best PvP characters, Sentry, Silver Surfer, Molecule Man, Null, Dormammu, Jean Grey with her new uniform, they're all universals. So getting an increase of 25% damage to them and taking 25% less damage, that stonks, baby. On top of that, thanks to Commander's video, we know that this uniform effect is not nullified by Molecule Man's leadership. So as Molecule Man becomes more popular in PvP, the value of Ebony Maw's uniform is going to rise, and it's already good. Not to mention the fact that most of the bosses in World Boss Ultimate now and World Boss Legend No are universals. So if he ever gets an Awakening or a tier 3, that's extra value stonks in a leadership and passive support, which is dope. So yeah, he's dope. Great uniform to buy. Corvus, Cull, and Proxima, on the other hand, yikes. Coming in at number 3, unfortunately, is their captain, not Apocalypse, Thanos. I'm putting him separately because he's the big dog, and he's head and shoulders, value-wise, as a character, above the rest of the Black Order. So Ebony was just there as a leadership support, but Thanos is a very good standalone character. However, the reason why I'm saying you should skip his uniform is because he just can't compete. He just has been pushed out, sort of like Captain Marvel. He's just been pushed out of the meta. There are way better universal villains now for PvE content. Hello Loki, hello Null, etc. But on top of that, he's just been pushed out of the PvP meta. He's not as tanky as Hulk. He doesn't have the iframe ignore tech that Hulk has. And then he just can't compete, unfortunately, with Sentry and the other, hyper inflated offensive stats of these new characters. So yeah, he is an extremely expensive uniform, right? Base cost 2,500 crystals, and then super expensive to rank up, and just not going to give you the input or the output that you want, given the input, right? Given how much you sacrifice, you're really not going to get that much in return from Thanos. So that's why he unfortunately has to make it on this list. Coming in at number two. I actually scrolled through them when I was showing you guys all those uniforms. It is the entire Future Foundation Fantastic Four. And I'm putting all of these uniforms together because I feel as though collectively the developers dropped the ball here. I know the Fantastic Four are really cool, and I wanted to mention them as well in this video because it's their 60th or 65th anniversary. So it's very possible we could see a uniform, or sorry, like an update centered around the Fantastic Four. And I would love that because all of them have so many different looks in the comics, and they all deserve to be way stronger than they are. None of them are in the meta. And besides Mr. Fantastic, none of them were in the meta or even close to it after they got their uniforms. I tried to make it work with Thing in PvP. I took off his regen. I tried to make it work with her. I tried to make it work with him. Nada. Zero. Zilch. Gave him a CTP. She used to have a CTP of energy, downgraded to destruction, downgraded to nothing. So yeah, she's lost her only value as a striker. He is literally just a Shadowland character, and then he is literally just a support for the Fantastic Four. The only one that has any merit at this point is Mr. Fantastic for like low level null because of his accumulation, but he can be a bit of a pain in the butt to play. So yeah, I really think the first family deserves way better. And if you compare them to the other character that came, well, actually they didn't come at the same time, but the other character very commonly associated with the Fantastic Four, of course, Silver Surfer, he has gotten way more love from the devs than the Fantastic Four. So they need their sort of Silver Surfer Black moment collectively as a family, and then hopefully that could lead to God Emperor Doom, which I know everybody is salivating over. So you're probably wondering at this point, who could be number one? You've hit on so many uniforms. What could possibly beat all that? And for better and for worse, it actually has to be Winter Soldier. Now, the reason why I'm selecting this one is there's basically two big reasons. One, the uniform sucks. Two, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is coming out soon. And again, we have no idea if they're going to be doing Disney Plus updates for Marvel Future Fight. But even if there's a shred of a hope of a chance, you should take that. Now, Winter Soldier, not the most popular character, but the risky thing here for players is he's got a tier 3. So people might see the tier 3 and be like, huh, well, I could tier 3 Winter Soldier and give him his newest, best uniform. And usually that idea works. Usually that logic holds. It doesn't. It doesn't for Bucky. It doesn't at all. He can't do null. He can't do any high-end content. He's just not good for any content in the game on a level that's going to satisfy you. Definitely 100%. I mean, it's a huge upgrade, right? This uniform is a huge upgrade compared to his other looks, but it's still nowhere near the competition. He can't compete at all with other, speed type characters. Not that there are many good speed type characters, but he still can't compete with them, right? This uniform is 2 years old. It's coming up on being 3 years old, actually. Wow. Yeah. And it's still, it still hasn't been replaced. So definitely wait for a replacement. Just avoid Bucky at all costs. I'm sure there's lots of people watching this right now that are like regretting that they even tier 3'd him, let alone, they bought his uniform years ago, but still, right? I'm sure if you could refund this uniform at this point, you 100% would. And I agree. So yeah, really hope that Winter Soldier and frankly the rest of the characters on this list get a uniform in the future. But that does it for my list. So let me know what you guys think of the top 10. It was actually a lot more than 10. It was close to 20, but top 10 must skip uniforms. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully this helps, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.